Welcome to Econ in HD. My name is Phil, and this is Prisoner's Dilemma. You may have heard about the Prisoner's Dilemma in your intro to game theory course, or maybe an intermediate level micro, public policy, or on the business side, maybe a strategy course. The idea is that you have two prisoners in custody. The police have enough to convict them on a minor charge, but in order to get a major charge, one of the two prisoners will have to rat out the other. I'm going to show the concept using a basic game theory payoff matrix. If you haven't seen one of these before, don't worry about it. It's pretty easy to understand, and you'll pick it up as I explain it. So here is our basic 2x2 matrix. Player 1 is over here, player 2 is up here, and each player has two choices. They can either stay quiet or they can confess. Player 1 is the same, stay quiet or confess. The assumption is that this is a single game, so a non-repeating game, and each player is trying to make the best choice based on what they believe the other player will do. Inside each of these boxes, I will write the payoffs for the players, and the numbers will be in the number of years they go to prison. So obviously lower is better. So if player 1 stays quiet and player 2 stays quiet, then they both get 1 year in prison. If player 1 stays quiet but player 2 confesses, then player 1 goes to jail for 3 years while player 2 gets to go free. The opposite happens here. Player 1 confesses while player 2 stays quiet. Player 1 gets to go free while player 2 gets 3 years in jail. If they both confess, then the police let them off a little bit lighter and they get 2 years each. So you'll see that right away both would actually want this outcome, and that's the mutually desirable outcome. But because these two options exist, what we're going to see is that the game gets pushed down to this corner here. How does this happen? So if I'm player 1, I need to decide what player 2 is going to do and what my best reaction to that is. So if I think player 2 is going to keep quiet, then as player 1, my decisions are locked into this column. So I choose either to keep quiet or to confess, so 1 year or 0 years. So obviously I choose 0 years. If player 2 chooses to confess, then my decisions as player 1 are locked into this column, so I either choose 3 years or 2 years. And so obviously I choose 2 years and I confess. Player 2 goes through the exact same decision process. So if player 2 assumes player 1 is going to keep quiet, then his decisions are locked into the top row. So the decision is either 1 year or 0 years. So obviously take 0 years. And if he thinks player 1 is going to confess, then his decision is locked into the bottom row. He has to choose between 3 years and 2 years. So obviously, again, he chooses 2 years. So even though both players would actually want this to happen, the threat in these two outcomes of your partner ratting you out actually pushes it down so that each of you gets 2 years after you both confess. And that's Prisoner's Dilemma.